Section 2.3, Simplifying Variable Expressions. To simplify variable expressions, we need to know a few terms. First, what is a term? A number or the product of a number and a variable or variables. That is a term. What are like terms? Terms that have identical variables with identical exponents. A coefficient is a number that multiplies a variable. And a constant is a term that has no variables. Now, that's hard to see what those actually are. So the next screens are going to show us what these terms actually mean. This example will help us identify the terms on the previous slide. So here I have an expression, 3x plus 8y minus 12x minus y plus 15. So what are the terms of that expression? The terms are exactly each element in the expression, 3x, 8y, 12x, y, and 15. As you can see, they are exactly as it's stated, number or the product of a number and variables. So the product of number and variables, or just a plain number. What do we call the plain number right here? That is our constant. It's without a variable. Our coefficients are the numbers that multiply the variable. Here, 3, 8, negative 12. And also, right here, there is no number shown, but if there's no number in front of a variable, we know it to be 1. We don't need to show that because by the identity property, 1 times y is just y. But we always know there's a 1 there. And what are my like terms? Terms that have the same exact variables and identical coefficients. So as you can see, my x and x terms are like terms. My y and y terms are my like terms. And notice their exponents are the same. Here my exponent on the x is 1. It's not shown. And here it's 1, and it's not shown. On the y, similarly, they have exponents of 1, but they're not shown. Our next example, I have a negative 5x squared minus x plus 8x squared plus 3x minus 12. Let's identify the terms. And here we have a negative 5x squared, x, 8x squared, 3x, and 12. Of course, we know the constant is the negative 12. The 12 is a constant because there's no variable attached to it. The coefficient are the numbers that multiply the variable. Negative 5, negative 1. Remember, there's a 1 here. It's not shown there's a 1. 8 and 3. And our like terms, even though they're all x's, the like terms are associated to the identical ones, which is x squared and x squared. Like variable and like exponent. X squared are like terms, and x and then x are the like terms. In this example, we want to name the coefficients, the like terms, if any, and the constants, if any. The coefficients are the numbers that multiply the variable. Here, my coefficient is a negative 12 and 14. Like terms, I have like terms. Notice the variables are AB and AB. That means they have the exact same variables and the exact same exponents, 1 on the A and 1 on the B, and similarly here, 1 on the A, 1 on the B. Therefore, my like terms are both of them, negative 12 AB and 14 AB. Constants, none. There are no constants. Numbers without variables. Name the coefficients, the like terms, and the constants. My coefficients, I have 1, the number that's multiplying the z, which is 3. Like terms, here I have none. This has a variable of z, this has no z. Therefore, there are no like terms, none. And my constant is my 8. We may think of that as a negative 8 when I actually perform operations because it's a minus 8. Again, I want to name the coefficients, the like terms, and the constants. My coefficients, 4, 9, 3, 2. My like terms, f, and f. Same variable, same exponent. So my like terms there are 4f and 3f. I'll put a circle around them, and I'll go to a different color because I have another set of like terms, and those have g's. And that would be 9g and 2g. So I have two sets of like terms. And I have one constant, which is 12. Now that we know those terms, we want to simplify variable expressions. And simplifying a variable expression means to replace the expression with an expression with fewer terms by combining like terms. Combining like terms means we're going to add or subtract like terms using addition and subtraction rules for integers. And then another key is this. When I add or subtract like terms, the variables and their exponent don't change. The only thing that changes are the coefficients that is going to be determined by the rules for adding and subtracting integers. So let's look at some examples. We want to simplify each expression. Here I'm given 14b minus 18b plus b minus 3. Step 1, copy the problem down from the book. After you do that, I want to identify like terms. Here I'm going to underline them. You don't have to at home, but you need to identify them. My like terms are the terms with the variable b. Now what I want to do is add and subtract the coefficients. 14 minus 18. Different sign subtract, use the sign of the larger. I get a negative 4b plus b minus 3. I still have like terms. Again, negative 4 plus 1. Different sign subtract. 4 minus 1 gives me 3. Use the sign of the larger, which is a negative, minus 3. This could have been done all in one step. That's up to you. So you could have gone from copying the problem right down to this step. I just showed this as an example. Now I've simplified this expression, reduced the number of terms, and I combined the like terms. 14 minus 18 is a negative 4, plus 1 is a negative 3, b minus 3. Number 2, like terms, 4k and 6k. Now this is kind of a trick because what you see is I have 4k, but this is the sign I want to use that goes with the 6, 4k minus 6. So in that instance, I want to subtract 4 minus 6, or 4 plus a negative 6. Different sign subtract, I get 2, but the sign of the larger is 6, which is negative. Bring down the variable and bring down the minus 5. Now recall what I said on the previous slide. Variables and their exponents don't change when combining like terms. So notice I started with a negative 4b, negative 18b, and b. The variable is still b. Over here, k and k, my variable is k. Nothing changed, just the coefficient by the addition and subtraction rules. Let's proceed. Now we're getting a little bigger. We have to use the distributive property and also the product rules. So let's start. We're going to distribute a negative 4 times 1. That gives me a negative 4x. A negative 4 times 1y. That gives me a negative 4y. A negative times a negative is a positive. Remember, we have to follow through in our mind, talk it through, and actually write down what I'm saying. Negative times a negative is a positive. 4 times 8 is 32. A negative and a positive is a negative 6z. Now I look for like terms, x, y, and z, and a constant. No like terms. Therefore, this is simplified, and that's all the farther I got to go. Sometimes you can get a problem that doesn't simplify because there's no like terms, and that is the solution. The next one, a negative h plus h. Notice here, I use a negative h, and I skip over this because this is a negative 10, a minus 10. But I want like terms to combine. So this is a negative h, and I go all the way over here, plus h. That's really a negative 1 plus 1. A negative 1 plus 1 is 0, h minus 10. Well, 0 times anything is 0, and 0 minus 10 is a negative 10. So actually, I would have gone from this step down to here. My variable here canceled out because 0 times any number is 0. And 0 minus 10 is the identity property, which gives me just my negative 10 back. So that's how this works. I can get rid of a variable if my coefficient is 0. Next, number 5, bring down the 4k. Distribute. Here I have to bring the negative with it, so I'm really using this as a negative 4 when I distribute. So this is a negative 4 times 1, which is a negative 4k. And a negative 4 times a positive 21. Negative times a positive is a negative. 4 times 21 is 84. Like terms, I have 2. 4k minus 4k. 4 minus 4 is 0, gives me 0k. So I know that this is going to cancel out, and I'm left with a negative 84. Number 6. A negative 3, I need to distribute. So that's that whole number, negative 3. Negative 3 times a positive 2 is going to give me a negative 6q. A negative times a negative is a positive 9. And now I'm going to multiply not 5, but a negative 5. So that negative 5 times 7 is a negative 35. And a negative 5 times a negative 2, positive, negative times a negative positive, is going to give me 10q. Now I have like terms. My q's are like terms. So a negative 6 plus 10. Different sign, subtract. 10 minus 6 is 4. Use the sign of the larger, which is positive. Q. Notice the variables don't change. And 9 minus 35. Different sign, subtract. 35 minus 9 is 26. Use the sign of the larger, which is a negative 35, which is 35, and it's negative, so it's minus, or negative 26. 4q minus 26. Again, we want to simplify. Number 7, I'm going to have a negative 2 times 9w, negative 18w, plus 3w. And now what I'm going to do is distribute. So I'm not going to bring that plus sign down. Let's see what's going to happen. A negative 3 times 2 is a negative 6. Negative times a positive is a negative. I could have brought down the plus sign, and that still would have been a negative 6, but it's a lot easier to do it this way. And here, a negative times a negative is a positive 3w. Remember, 3 times 1w. 3 times 1, 3w. Combine like terms. A negative 18w plus 3w. Different sign, subtract. Use the sign of the larger. I have a negative 15w. If you need to write that, we can. Minus 6 plus 3w. We don't have to show that step if you can do this all right here in your head. But I showed it here, so we'll continue with this. Negative 15. And we go all the way over here, not the minus sign. I don't use that. That minus goes with the 6. I skip over the 6 or the constant and go to the plus 3w. Negative 15 plus 3w. And that's going to be different signs. So 15 minus 3 is going to give me 12w. Use the sign of the larger. 15 is larger. It's negative, so it's a negative 12w. Bring down the constant, which is 6. Next, I have 5 times 2. I'm going to distribute again. 5 times 2 is 10m. 5 times 7, positive times a positive is a positive 35k. And my next term, I'm going to use a negative 4 to distribute. Negative times a negative is positive 16m. And negative times a positive is a negative 12k. Combine like terms. My first set of like terms are my m's. 10m, skip over the plus 35k, 10m plus 16m. That means same sign combined, use the sign since they're both the same sign. That gives me 26m. And then my other like terms are 35k and 12k. So 35k, skip over the plus sign because that went with the 16. 35k, skip all the way over, minus 12. That's positive, that's negative, different signs. That's going to give me a subtraction rule. 35 minus 12 is going to give me 23k. And use the sign of the larger. 35 is bigger than 12. It's positive, and therefore that's a plus sign, making 23 positive.